Welcome to the Japji Sahib podcast. In this episode, we'll be going through the 21st stanza blessed to us by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In this stanza, we won't be, but Guru Nanak Dev Ji will be answering that question for us of, will it satisfy our minds? Will we reach a place of contentment the more and more insights we have of the laws of this creation, of how everything works? The more we get to know, will that help us to feel more content? Because content then equals to happiness. Let's have a look at what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying. First of all, saying Fateh to preacher and saying Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Nearly forgot about you then, preacher.
Oh.
It's not in that way, in a bad way, but it's just been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
So I was there thinking we're back to you being behind the camera and not in the camera. So I was just going to crack on with it then. Anyway, let's get into it. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying, Teerath Tap Dat Daan Je Ko Paaeeaa Panddtee Maan. So let's break this down. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying here that Teerath meaning pilgrimage, and then Tap meaning spiritual penance, Daya Dat Daan. So this is quite interesting. So that's quite straightforward when we look at that part of pilgrimages. And we've spoke about that in previous stanzas as well. That's going and bathing at certain places, rivers, which are often known as holy rivers, in that, well, it's not even a hope, is it? Because they've been told if they go and bathe at these places that their sins will be washed away. So that's the Teerath part here. And then we've got the Tap. Tap is, we've translated it to spiritual penance. And that is often when people, again, set themselves out, give themselves a task to do, and then at the end of that task, it's again transactional, that if I do this and I put my body through this, and then at the end of that, then I should be receiving this. And it's, even if it's not something worldly, and often penance isn't done for the sake of receiving something worldly. Penance is done because there's that expectation of having union with that one, but it's still done with that stubborn-mindedness. And it's done in a way where it's, again, like I said, it's not out of that devotion, but it's transactional, that if I do this for this amount of hours and I'm putting my body through this pain, so for that reason, that at the end of that, I should be receiving this. And whether that's then union with that creator. So that's the top part of it. So again, not going into those in more detail, but just giving an idea and gist, and then going on from. So this part, I would translate together the three words, Daya Dat Daan. So with Teerath, we would put a comma there, then Tap, and then now comma, and then this is one thing together, Daya Dat Daan. And the way we've translated that is compassionately giving gifts. There's a lot of people in this world that will focus on doing that, where I could look at where there's a need, where, for example, somebody's struggling in their life, whatever that may be, that could be food, that could be shelter, so the necessities of life, and I fulfill that gap in somebody else's life, providing that daan, providing that gift. And dat means to give, and then daan is the gift. So providing that gift with compassion. And what I would say, this compassion here is more so not necessarily where you are experiencing the essence of that emotion of compassion. It's not necessarily coming from that place of where there's this emotion wishing that somebody else is freed from their pain or suffering, but instead it's coming from that you know that this is a good deed to do, and you've been told that it's common sense. I'm fulfilling somebody else's need and necessity in their life. So for that reason, it's a good deed to do. It's a compassionate act. And then I'm carrying out that act. That's what it's referring to. It doesn't necessarily mean being in that state, because if it was being in the state of compassion, that's one of the qualities that the Guru talks about that we need to merge back with that divine. So it wouldn't make sense for it to be in that context. And you can think about this in your own life. When I think it'll bring it more into context if we look at the second line as well, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji is then saying, Je ko paava til ka maan. And those of you that are familiar with Punjabi, this will make so much more sense. And again, for those that are listening to this, to pay more attention to the translations that you're seeing on the screen as well, because the effort has gone in to retranslating this, or we can say interpreting this. Is that a word? Yeah. In interpretation of this Baani. In Punjabi we say, Chal, je koi paoga, je koi paoga. And that's what this is saying. Til ka maan. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, even if you do these things, you go on pilgrimage, you do spiritual penance, and then you give to others. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, if you're going to get anything in return, paave, then it's til ka maan. And what that means is, til ka maan is, so we've translated it to a minuscule of blessing. So what the return that you get for it is, in the way we've just explained what the pilgrimage is, and then what the penance is, and that type of giving is, spiritually what you get in return for it is just a little til. A til means sesame seed. So you can get something very small in return for it. That enhancement, that spiritual enhancement. The Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying, Je ko, if you are gonna, meaning you might not get anything back. There's that line in Slok Mahalla Nauma. You know how we said Guru Nanak Dev Ji says he may not get nothing in return, but we might get something. We might end up even in that debt. meaning never mind getting closer to that divine, because when we're saying getting something in return spiritually, what we're saying is that we've washed away some of those layers of ego, and we've become closer to that soul, become closer to that divine. But instead, never mind getting nothing for it, we might even add a layer.
It makes me think, like Sikhi is not about its transactions. If you were to make Sikhi, if you were to make anything transactional, we would be so in debt with the layers of ego that we had. Sikhi, this path is about falling and saying Dharam Dar Gag the Fare, just rip it up, because I've come to your sharan. Nanak Garib Tap Dware. If we don't fall, if we don't remove the transactional thing, we're not going to end up in a good situation, are we?
It's quite crazy, because then when you end up becoming the giver and you start to think like, I am the giver, and it's because of me that this is happening, and if it wasn't for me, look, this wouldn't have happened. They get stuck in that ego. But Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji here is saying that Teerath Bart Ardhan Kar, you can be doing all this pilgrimage, you can be doing your fasting, Ardhan Kar, you could be doing this giving to people, but at the end of it, you've actually accumulated more filth. Which filth is just basically something that takes us even further away from the soul. And then maname tare guman, instead you've filled yourself with that pride. You've started to see yourself that almost, I could use the word more superior. Look, I'm the giver. Not not remembering that one, that creator, that creator's the one. It was that creator's grace that gave me, that put that thought and gave me that thought to be able to give, and gave the ability. And even if we break it down further, whatever I'm giving is giving from this dharti, from this earth, from Mother Earth. I didn't make this earth. Yeah, it's like Kabir ji saying that, Mera mujh mein kich nahi, jo kich hai so tera, tera tujhko saumpte, kya lage mera. That I'm just giving you back what is already yours, and then I'm trying to become the giver. I can only say, look, it was me that gave. It was because of me they became more nourished now. But the dharti, the earth, is the creator's anyway. I just took from the creator's earth and then passed it on. So really, kya lage mein, what have I spent? When everything belongs to you anyway. You are the one that has created this dharti. You are the one that has created the resources, that everything comes from this earth anyway. So if we really started to live in that way, live consciously in that way, and that's where Guru Nanak Dev Ji wants to take us to that level of consciousness of living in that way, instead of getting stuck. Because think about it now. If I now hold on to, imagine now, if there's, this is, I put my hands up, and it's not easy talking about these things. So it takes a huge hit to the ego, and that's what we're here to do, aren't we? Especially in a podcast style. If we can't talk like this, and you're thinking, what are you on about? What are you going to say?
Come on then. Let's hear it.
I got to get ready to get smashed, remember?
Okay, yeah.
I'm preparing myself. Okay, so for example, learning about Gurbani, and then learning about the wisdom of Gurbani, contemplating that wisdom, and then passing that on to others. And I don't mean in this way, in a podcast or in a katha, but I'm talking about more on a one-to-one basis or a group basis, where you're actually then passing that on, whatever contemplation you've done and learning that you've gone through of that wisdom. And then, for example, you pass that on, and this happened to me. So you pass that on, or pass on probably isn't the right term. Let's say Gurbani used the word share. You share that. So you share that gift, that gun. And by the way, what I'm talking about here, when you share the gun, remember, it doesn't belong to us. That's covered in this body itself. Sabh gun Tere Mal Naao. That if it's a gun, if it's a quality, a divine quality, then it belongs to you anyway. Mal Naao. The ma, the home, the ego cannot have a quality, because the ego is what resists, what opposes the qualities of that divine. Anything that comes, whatever comes from resisting the divine is not a quality of the divine. Yeah. So when I started this, for example, so when I've shared that with someone, and then say the relationship's gone a certain direction with the people that you've shared that with, and later on it could be after months, it could be after years, and that relationship maybe has gone a certain direction where everybody's kind of gone their own way, and you're not kind of on that same frequency, or however you want to word it. And then a thought comes, because, for example, they might be treating you now a certain way. You're not kind of connecting anymore. And then that thought comes, I can't believe they're not appreciating me. I can't believe they can speak to me now in that way after what I taught them, what I gave them. And the moment you think like that, what's happened? Teerath Bart Ardaan Kar Man main tare guman. That guman has come in now. That pride has come in. Main ditta. And I know somebody's going to probably come up with the counter argument. Yeah, but shouldn't they appreciate it? That's up to them. Yeah. But me feeling like that is now my pride. Let's leave that as a separate conversation. That's separate to this. Yeah, let's just focus on this part. And then Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says that Nanak nehfal jaat teh jo kunchar ishnan. And then Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji saying that what happens is everything becomes nehfal, fruitless. Because if it was left at that, it was the gun of that parmeshwar of contemplation that was blessed, and then the grace, and I just shared that grace on, which belongs to that one, because if anything came which was divine, that would belong to that one anyway. I'm just sharing that one's blessings. Then it was just full of fruits, because then I'm in the connection. Fruits is when you're connected, basically. So then I'm connected, that means it was fruitful. And the moment I think, but it was I gave them, and how dare they not appreciate me? Who wants to be appreciated? Is my ego. Yeah, it's the ego that gets hurt. And in that moment, what happens? Nehfal. It becomes fruitless. And what it means to be fruitless is now that the pride has come in. So I've now accumulated more filth. I've gone away from my soul. Fruitless is when one of these demerits come in. Nehfal jaat teh jo kunchar ishnan. In the same way, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji says that kunchar, which is the elephant that has a bath, gets all clean, but in that same time as it bathes itself with the water, and it just gets all the dust and all the mitti, the soil, and just puts it back on. And that's what, and I would have to say that it's a lesson that I've learned in a painful, hard way. And what I found was that when I felt low in myself, that is when I try to hold on to that more. When you're vibrating at a lower frequency, and you then you're feeling low anyway, and then you try and use your ego to hold on to things, to try and make you feel better, make yourself feel better. So you're now trying to clean yourself or make yourself feel better with the ego. But Guru Arjan Dev Ji says that's never going to work. What's the pangati? Ho maila mal kabahu na tova. Marji saying, how can you wash yourself with something that is dirt anyway? You're trying to make yourself feel better with ego. Ho maila, the ego is dirty. The mal, the dirt, kabahu na tove, can never be washed with that. So isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I've gone through it myself, Reggie. For teach someone filming.
Yeah.
And then you see their work and you think, I made that happen. And the deed itself in teaching the thing was a good thing.
Yeah,
because it's led to development in that field, maybe more prajar, or Keeta doesn't film better or whatever. In a similar way, the way that you shared the Guru's wisdom is having that positive impact. But it's a daily, I think something that can help ground you is that gratitude. So a daily practice of gratitude towards Waheguruji, to remind yourself that it's not yours.
And I think we've covered that, haven't we, in one of the episodes as well?
Yeah.
That when you realize grace, then in that moment you can be filled with gratitude. And that is the way. Gratitude is the way of the one, is the way forward to break out of that. Because it's a hard lesson I've been learning. And obviously, like Kabir Ji says, Aju ho so nau samundar mein hai, kya jana kya hoye. I'm hoping that I don't fall into that pit again, but the possibilities are there. But it's a lesson that I'm definitely working on. I'm trying to work through. If these aren't the things, the Teerath, the Tap, just the giving, if that's not the essence, and by the way, it's not about condemning and not doing these things. Of course, that's a huge part, is giving and sharing, but it's about how. It's all about where we are internally. That's what matters. It's not about stopping doing these things. We're not saying to somebody, don't go on a pilgrimage. I'm not saying to somebody, don't go to Hemkund Sahib, or don't go to these places that somebody else, somebody may see that as a pilgrimage as well. But it's about, if we do that and become idle about creating the true shift, which is internal, that's where the issues. That's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying. Well, if you get anything, that's all you're going to get. If you're expecting to remain the same from inside, and you're not even willing to create and make that shift, then what's the point, basically? So if all of those things now that have been listed, if that's not what it's about, it's important for us to be clear on, it's not that there's anything wrong with doing those things physically, carrying out, going on pilgrimage, setting yourself some form of difficult discipline, or then giving. Of course, there's nothing wrong. That's not that we stop doing those things, but it's about how we do those things from inside. This is all about the internal change, the internal cleanse. And are we willing to let certain things go? Are we willing to shed things? Because that's a type and that's a form of bhakti as well. When you just go through a process of letting things go. And that can be looked at from Gurbani in various different places of Gurbani of how to do that as well. So what is it about? Guru Nanak Dev Ji said it's about this. It's about Sunia, Mania, Man, Keeta, Bhaao. This is the essence. It's about, fine, you've given something to someone that's made their life better, but have you made that internal shift within yourself? Have you, Sunia, have you listened to the wisdom that the Guru is giving us? Have you, Mania, have you then completely accepted sweetly and surrendered to, and are you devoted to that wisdom that the Guru is giving you? Man Keeta Bhaao, because that wisdom will do what for you? It will Keeta Bhaao. It will make it your mind filled with love. It will make your mind be filled with love if you truly listen to taking on the Guru's wisdom. And the Guru's wisdom is what tells us, what keeps us conscious of the soul and living soul conscious, or what we are doing to go away from that soul. Having ill thoughts, having ill wish towards somebody else. That's just one example. So I can go to this, I can give you all the necessities that you require and you need. That's great, that's amazing. That's on a physical plane, on a level, it's done so much for you. But then I actively think, because I'm doing that, I'm okay now in the eyes of God. Because of that, I'm going to be okay. I'll have a place somewhere for me in the house of God or wherever at some point. But I'm not willing to let go of that ill wish towards somebody else. That I'm holding on to. Because I think I'm okay now. I don't need to let go of that because I've done that. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, it's better, it doesn't matter whether you do the giving, whether you go on pilgrimage, that doesn't matter. But if you can do that, if you can just let go of that, and it's a process, you work at that. But first you've got to become conscious of that I am doing that. I have got that towards someone. I have got an ill wish towards somebody. Become conscious of it, and then you take the Guru's wisdom on, and then you start working on that, and you start to know that that's what it is that's going to get me back home. That's what's going to get me back to my soul. And then what will happen when I do that? When I start taking that wisdom on and shedding that away from me, the ill thoughts, ill wish towards somebody else, what will happen then? Mani Keeta Bhaao. That wisdom will Keeta, will do what for me? Will fill my heart with love. Because really, in essence, that's what we are. But we're holding on to something that isn't allowing us to be that. Yeah. So we take on the Guru's wisdom when Guru Sahib Ji said to us that Parka Bura Na Rakho Cheet, and I use these same examples wherever I do talks again and again. These same lines I'll use again and again, because these are the things that are keeping us away. We often do things and psychologically make ourselves feel better that I've done something religious. I've done this. I've done my part. I've done this. I've done that. I've gone on my pilgrimage. I've done all of that. Oh, look how much I've given to preaching. And psychologically, I've made myself feel better. But the real work I didn't do. And the real work was, if you want to find your true self, then that is the only way to do it. And these things, when you start letting go of them, that's what means that's what it means to Har Pariyo Swami Ke Dware, which you mentioned earlier, where you completely surrender at the door of God. But what does that even mean? Sometimes these things just become words. We just say these things. Like the word surrender, I know many people that try not to even use that word anymore because they don't even hold weight anymore because they've been overused. And we don't even know how to do that and how to actually put that into practice anymore. So I know people that say, that is the right word, but I don't want to use it because it holds no weight in the way we hear it now. Yeah. It's not a true story, but you've probably heard that story where there's somebody standing at the edge of a cliff and they've fallen, and then there's this little branch just sticking out of the little mountain, and then they manage to grab hold of that and they're hanging on that. And then this man thinks, well, I can't stay here forever, but I can't see any other way out as well. Where do I go? What do I do? How long do I stay here? What do I do? So they say that, as the story goes, and this man then starts to pray and says, God, give me a sign. Tell me, what do I do from here? And then he hears a voice, and the voice is, let go. And then after a moment of silence, the man says, is there anyone else there? Is to say, well, I can't let go. Is there any other advice out there? So, and that's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying here. Somebody's saying, but no, I don't want to let go of that ill wish towards someone because of what they've done to me, or because I need to protect myself, and because the survival mind will say that's the right thing to do because I need to survive. And if I don't hold that against them, then I'm in danger. But then Guru Nanak's voice is saying to us, like that man saying, oh, it's not quite the answer I was looking for. Anybody else there? So Guru Nanak is saying, Parka bura na rakho cheet. Don't hold on. Bura, ill, negative in your mind for somebody else. And then we're saying, can I just go on the pilgrimage, please?
And it's fortunate that that inner voice will not change.
Oh, no,
because
it's the same.
It's that pure voice of the one. And however we've spoken about it in detail in the Sunia Boria, that it's very clear. And you've even spoken about it on your Instagram as well, about that inner voice, that intuition. and it will say let go, and you can't tell it to give you another option.
No.
Because it's so pure, and there's no duality in it.
Yes.
There's no bottom in it. It's clear.
It is what it is. You know?
And to kill off the ego, it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, of course.
Something worth having is not normally easy to attain. It's the things that take you away that are normally easy to kind of fall into. And it makes sense, you know, when Guruji's given us this path of salvation through in normal life, not through what in the past people would do mental things to try and find that one, and they may have done that. They might have done that through, you know, going off into the jungles and the top and all those things. And Guru Sahib has given a normal householder's life where we're dressed like this and we work and we earn money and we enjoy life and we eat and we play and we have family, and you know. And because in every moment of our life, there is an opportunity to Mana Keeta Paaeo, Sunia, Mania Keeta, whether that's feeding your child and them, you know, turning their head away and you serve them with devotion, whether it's your spouse and you're going at it and you've got a chance to fall and say, okay, this is where I need to step up. You know, or whether it's in the examples you gave where you're trying to share something that's close to your heart and you've spent decades on, and it's not worked out in the way you think, and you have to let go because it's like it was a gift and it was not mine to begin with.
Of course, you have to then, and in that moment, then there is no other option other than going back to ek daate, ek pe khari ji, Sabh Tere choj vidana, that look, that grace came from you and that grace was passed on because I tried to make it mine is why I'm hurting now. And the pain is because there was an expectation, because even that's transactional. Then if I expected them to remain a certain way towards me for the rest of their life, you know, and it's a fine game. So it was Sunia, Mania, Keeta Paaeo. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying that really what I want you to do is I want you to start working on your internal self. So then the result of Sunia Mania, of completely surrendering to that wisdom, and we've just used that one example, is the ill wish, and is consciously working on letting go of it. And letting go of it is the falling, is all of that. Is then that man on that branch just letting go, because then that's God's hands there below you waiting to then hold you and catch you. But it takes a lot to be able to do that.
It does.
To be caught in that way.
There's another kind of story like that kind of connects to this, that, you know, like a man standing on top of a roof and the building's on fire, and then they pray to God to say, can you save me? And their eyes are shut and they're like waiting for some kind of miracle. And then God sends a helicopter and they're like, God, please save me. And then they send like a boat, like there's water around, they send a boat, and they send like an airplane, and the guy's just ignoring all the signs and all the support, because it might, like, even in that situation, like that guy had to let go of the branch, but it could be a situation where you're being offered support and solutions.
So I'll tell you a true story in regards to that with Sant Waryam Singh. What happened to Sant Waryam Singh, Ratwada Sabh wale? So when they left home at one point and they were just going out and they were in jungles and doing a lot of Gurmantar, Moolmantar jobs, Japji Sahib jobs, this continuous recitation, but they had built themselves up. It wasn't that they left. It wasn't that he left to go to the jungle for attainment, but it was just he was so immersed in this love. It was happening to him. It was more so. And then it was just that then he ended up in these spaces. So then when it came down to food, he didn't ardas. And he said to Vaheguru that I want to eat if you give me. And he was very innocent. He was young, he was really young then. And he had this innocence about him. And in that innocence, he said, Vaheguru, I'm only going to eat if you provide me directly. So then after, I'm not sure how long he had been there, don't know where the food's going to come from or anything. And in his mind, he said it so innocently, like literally like a kid, meaning that he thought that the food's going to just appear, like it's going to be magical. And I think a day or two later or something, when nobody passes this area, it's completely scarce, and a lady just randomly turns up. She does Bainti, requests to come home and to their home. So he's listened to her request. They've gone to their family home, and they said, we want, give you some fresh clothes, and then we want to make you a meal. So they come together, the family does, the husband and wife, and they make Sant Waryam Singh a meal. They sit down to a prashada, and then he said, I can't eat it. And they're like, what do you mean? He said, I've done ardas. It's got to come direct from Vaheguru. So he sat there, and then, the intuition that we spoke about. So when we talk about intuition, we're not talking about that survival instinct. We're not talking about the voice of our beliefs or values or any. This is the core. And remember that intuition and whatever the Guru's Baani says will never be in conflict, will always match. Yeah. So then this deep intuition says, ਮੈਂ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਆ ਤੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਦਾਂ ਭਾਲਦਾ ਆ, like it's me. Vaheguru said, it's me. I've given you this. Don't close your eyes now. Yet know my presence, experience my presence. And then he laughed, and he kind of hit his head and thought, Chatumi si. There was me gonna just move it away. But that divine play played out with these ardas, somehow that energy reaching this lady where she was pulled towards that direction, saw somebody, here in meditation. But look how it plays out. So this energy of ardas, the way it plays out, it comes back through the Sahasatavanan, through the thousands of eyes of that one. Because that one's eyes, the eyes of these creatures, the human beings, are the eyes of that one. Yeah. And when somebody else and they're within that frequency, and they let go as well, they're in touch with the intuition, they'll hear it as well. They won't know consciously. Most of the time, they won't know consciously what's happening to them. Why are they now going that direction? But it's this divine play of energies and how things just fold out and play out. It's just magical. So it's just like, it is a true story. They tell it themselves in their actual recordings, in their Diwan. And they're like, mere naal idda hui. And they go, unne fir mainu dassiya, main hi aa. Main hi ditti aa. It's me. I've given you the roti. Amazing, man. So if we come back to vichar that Antargat Teerath Mal Naao, and then Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying that this is how you cleanse yourself. Yeah, like, I couldn't care less if you went to that pilgrimage, right? You've given someone something great. Obviously, that's amazing. Somebody else gets to have something. But imagine what you'll be able to do for this world if you actively worked on letting go of that ill wish towards somebody. Imagine the being you will become then. Who will you become then? If you was to just start letting go of these things, then you will become sukh dukh jeh parse nahi lob moh abhiman kaho nanak sun re mana so moorat bhagavan. You will be the embodiment of that one. Once you've let go of those things, then who will be speaking through you? Mukh boli har bani. Then that's the second part of the Pankti of the Tiji Lav. Har tijri lav man Chaao paya bairagiya balram jiyo. But in that same, the second Pankti, Ma is saying nirmal har paya. Because now it's that pure, immaculate one that you are now experiencing. It's not, you don't experience it through your senses, but you are now the embodiment of that one. And then har gunagaya, you're in this, your whole being is in constant state of praise of that one. Then mukhaboli har bani, then even what you speak will be the words of that one. It will be divine. Everything you even speak in that state. That's Antargat Teerath Mal Naao. It's cleansing yourself through that Guru's wisdom in that way. And then Guru Nanak says that Sabh gun Tere Mal Naao, that which we've already covered. And that Bhaao, when your heart is filled with that love, then it's that one, it's the quality of that one. You're not resisting anymore. It doesn't belong to my ego. My ego cannot produce something like that. Vin gun Keete Bhagat Na Hoye. Then the Guru says that you cannot be in a state of devotion without these qualities. Because to be in the true state of devotion, it comes from these qualities. It comes from the qualities of pure dedication plus love plus innocence. If you look at any Bhagat, they had that innocence. If you look at the life, which, you can listen to the stories that we've already covered on our channel. Go and listen to the stories of Bhagat Naam Dev Ji. I did a gatha of Bhagat Naam Dev Ji, I think back 7-8 years ago. Maybe we could put the link in. Listen to those stories, because they had not just dedication. You have pure dedication towards something. It can be very dry. You can be very hard and stubborn. That's why you can't just say devotion is dedication. No, devotion is dedication with love and innocence as well. So you're not in a state of devotion if you haven't got those. And those are blessed to us, that the grace of that one, these qualities are. And they are given to us when we listen. Suasat Aath Baani Barmaao. And it's like when it feels as if in this moment, Guru Nanak Dev Ji now is just saying, wow, that one, that are these qualities, the sarguna of that, the manifestation of that formless, are these, what do you even call these qualities? Like, wow, that's all you can say about them is Vaah. These qualities are just Vaah. And the Guru Nanak Dev Ji's saying this about that one and saying, what can I say about you? And then they just say, Suasat Aath Baani Barmaao. They're saying, all I can do is just swast. I can just bow to that one. That swast means to bow. And then Aath means Maya, meaning the creation. Saying that all I can do is bow to that one and surrender myself to that one that has with Baani, with one word, that sound of Uang, from there, that Barmaao, that creator, the creative Shakti power of that one has created all of this. All I can do is just like, wow. And being in that wow and surrendering is just saying, yeah, I don't need to, my cleverness is telling me, my survival brain, part of my brain is telling me that I need to hold on to this to save myself from that person and have this type of thought and ill wish towards somebody else. No, I don't. All I need to do is Suasat Aath Baani Barmaao. Let me just bow myself, surrender myself before that creative power that has created this entire creation with one vibration, one word. And then Sat Suhaan, Sadaa man Chaao. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying that one is Sat is the true existence. That one that has always been is the absolute truth that doesn't come and go, that is beyond all of that. Suhaan, it's that is beautiful. So let's just have a look at how we've translated it here. The one is the beautiful truth and exists in a constant state of joy. Anyone that has experienced that inside of them, in their own self, where they have had those moments, it may have just been a glimpse. Just like Bhagat Ravidas Ji said, look, I'm happy with just ek puri darshan dije. Just even for a moment. For a moment, if anybody, so Sagal Pavan ke Naika, ek shin dars dakhaye ji. Even we could have a look at that, just Pankti. And saying here that ek shin dars, if I was just to have a shin, and what is that? Most of us, let's be honest, we're not there constantly, but we do have a shin. We do get a moment. We do get a moment. And that moment is when we do find in that moment we've let go of all of that. Taken on the Guru's wisdom, we've let go all of that. What do you find? You find this profound stillness inside of you that is just Suhaan. It's so beautiful. It's Satta Suhaan. It's just so beautiful. Sadaa man Chaao. And in that beauty, you're in this state of Chaao, in this joy. That's what we are. We are, the true self is just absolute state of joy. Because it's not holding on to any of that dirt. And then Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, people think this is what's going to do it for them. Maybe if we just find out a little bit more about that creator, when did this creation come into being? If I can answer that question, if I can find out a little bit more about how do you solve or resolve or cure this disease, how do you come to know about having more technology like AI or something like, we think if we know more of these things of how and find more things of the laws of nature, and we find out when that creator started creating everything, we think when we know these things, maybe that's what's going to do it for us. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, no. Look how much we've already found out. Look how much comforts we've already got. Look how many diseases, the cures we've already got for so many diseases. And that's great. That gives us on a physical level that has helped so much. But that doesn't mean it's put us in a state of joy, in a state of bliss, in a state of stillness. Just because you've got so much technology now, just because they've got another cure for another disease now, doesn't mean humanity now is in a state of joy. Just because we know a little bit more and we've realized a little bit more. That's why Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, Kavan so Vela, Vakhat Kavan, Kavan Thet Kavan Vaah. They're saying that. So I'm just going to read these translations out now because we've written them ourselves anyway. Is that, so what was that time and what was that moment? So that Vela is time. What was that moment? What was that lunar day and what was that solar day? And that's talking about the Tet, talking about the Vaah. And then Guru Nanak Dev Ji says that Kavan se Rutee, Maho Kavan, Jit Hua Aakar. That what was that season? What was that month? Rutee means season. What was that month? When this whole creation came into being. Vel Na Paaeeaa Panddtee, Jehovah Lekh Puraan. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying that, you know what? People could claim to know this. And they think if they find out this is the essence of, that's it then. They'll be complete. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying the religious scholars weren't able to find the time when the creation came into being. Even if they knew, they would have dedicated a Purana to it, Guru Nanak Dev Ji said. And then, Vakhat Na Paaeo Kaadeeaa, Je Likhan Lekh Quran. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying that even the Qazis, these Islamic judges that have studied so much the Quran, weren't able to find that moment. when the creation came into being. And if they had written it, it would have included in the Quran. Thetwar na jogi jane, rut maho na koi. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying that the yogis don't know that lunar day. When that creation came into being, no one knows what the seasonal month was. Jakarta, sirthi ko sajay, ape jane sui. Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying so that only that creator knows when this creation came and was created, that moment. Only that one really knows. And I know some of you will say, well, now that, you know, that scientists have got a pretty accurate, you know, they've come to know of when that time was approximately. But what Guru Nanak Dev Ji's, what the essence of what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying here is that, okay, first of all, nobody knows for sure in that accurate moment precisely. And even if somebody finds that out, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, still, really, you're never going to know the limits of that one. And it's about experiencing that one in the essence of that formless, that beauty, that Chaao, that joy. That's what life is about. That's what this human experience is all about. And don't get me wrong, anybody, that of course these are amazing things to celebrate when we find cures to diseases, and these aren't negative things. But just because we know those things, it doesn't mean now that is it, that we now have found that eternal joy within ourselves.
Yeah, it's like asking the question, like, what is quality of life? Because like you look at, you know, what NASA and all these big organizations do with astronomy and astrophysics and metaphysics and all this kind of stuff, and it leads to, like, you know, cutting edge technology which will trickle down into then consumer products, you know, like the cars we drive are from like the aeronautical industry, etc., etc. And as you said, you know, you mentioned the medical industry, and all these things have improved our quality of life. But what quality of life is Guruji talking about?
Definitely. I said to my boys this morning, so it's not about outer success that the Guru talks about. The Guru talks about internal success of where we are, how we are living, how we are experiencing this creation. Are we in a state of joy? You know, I can remember when having so much less.
Yeah.
And being in a much better state of mind.
Well, look at Mitrabiarano.
Yeah.
So it's not actually dependent on what's happening externally. Although we can be very grateful for, like, you know, look at the Homer and we're
not ungrateful.
Yeah.
But because of that, am I in a state of joy? That's not what gives us that true state of joy. That can be found at any time. Guru Arjan Dev Ji clearly says that sukh nahi bahute tan khatte. That sukh, that inner peace, doesn't come from just because you've now earned a lot of money. Anyway, that's another topic. Let's get back to Japji Sahib here, and what Guru Nanak Dev Ji saying here is helping us throughout all of this to just go to that state of surrender and find that bliss inside of you. But what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is doing is, where Guru Nanak Dev Ji is taking us is to that place, is where Guru Nanak Dev Ji is, and saying just to be in that state and just say, Kiv Kar Aakhaa. What can I speak of? Give Salahi. How can I praise you? Because you are just so beant, you're just so limitless and profound, and kyo varni kiv jana, that how can I describe anything of that one, describe and know that one? And that doesn't mean just when Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying something like this, people that are often used to living in their head more, they will still come up with something. Well, you can say this, can't you? Well, we have figured this out. That's not what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying here. They're not denying that we've not figured things out of this creation, but they're taking you to this state of just being in a state of awe and experience of just Kiv Kar Aakhaa. It's this state of just pure love that you are just so beyond. What can I say? And that it's taking you to that stillness. That stillness is Nirankar. That is just that one line. If we really was to take in that wisdom, like we said, Sunia, Mania, this is a wisdom as well. If we was just to be able to do this, like if we used to go in this state and just go, Kiv Kar Aakhaa, Kiv Salahi, Kyo Varni, Kiv Jana, that alone could take us to Nirankar. That alone could take us to Satchikhandava Se Nirankar, that realm of truth, because it would just be like, whoa, just wow. And then Guruji says, Nanak, Aakhan Sabh Ko Aakhaa, Ek Du Ek Siana. They're saying that there's so many that making an attempt to say, that's it. That's why Guru capped, done. And it's nothing to do with, it's just in the head. It's all intellectual. It's all knowing a bit more about this. It's not that. I'm trying not to use the word in the experience of that one, because it's not, I don't want anyone to think you're experiencing that one and it's an experience as in through the senses, but there is no separation. When I say the word experience, I'm talking about that you are now in that
state.
That's it.
Yeah.
But Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying that people are saying, Aakhan Sabh Ko Aakhe Ek Du Ek Siana. There's one that's claiming to be wiser than the other, than the rest.
What's that Pankti that Bhagat Kabir Ji says about, like when the pitcher's full, it doesn't make a noise?
Yeah.
Chucha, Katabola,
yeah,
something
so
like that.
That's one part of that Pankti. Kaho Kabir, Chucha, Katabola. That is one part of that Pankti.
Yeah, Parya hoye so kabhu na dola.
Yeah. So that Parya hoye so kabhu na dola. It's not trying to be out clever the next person. I know more. You might know more intellectually, might have worked something out about this creation, but it doesn't mean you're in the state of joy. Not in that state of, this is just parya hoye, like you said, so kabhu na dole, in that pure stillness. So Kiv Kar Aakhaa, Kiv Salahi, Kyo Varni Kiv Jana, Nanak, Aakhan Sabh Ko Aakhe Ek Du Ek Siana, Vada Sahib. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is just, you could just try and just feel that. They're saying Vada Sahib. Just like, wow, that one's just great. Vadi Nai, that one's name, that one that is doing all of this, that is creating all of this, is like, wow. Keeta, Jaka, Hova, it's just happening accordingly to that one's will. Nanak je ko apao jana agga gaya na so hai. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying that if there are people that somebody, according to their own intellect, attempts to describe the extent of that one, so he's saying je ko apao jana, is saying that I know everything intellectually. Mainu pata. Guru Nanak is saying, but you're not in that Sat Suhaan, Sadaa Man Chaao. But you're not in Sadaa Man Chaao. Yeah, you found out a bit more. And what? You'll bring a few more comforts into this world. You'll help, with a few more things. Great. But don't think you know that one. Yeah. And then, Agga Gayana Soha is saying, because then you will find out as you continue even beyond this body that no, you didn't quite know. So there we go. And what I take from this is literally is just, it's letting go and just knowing that it's all about success. Is if I get to Sadaa Man Chao, to be in a constant state of joy. Just because you know a bit more about technology now, just because I know a bit more about something now, whatever that might be, if I'm not in that state of joy that Guru Nanak's saying, because that's what Waheguru is, then you've not yet got there, have you? So there we go. Sangat ji, Waheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru ji ka Khalsa, Waheguru ji ki Fateh.